You're listening to WRFR LP 93.3 FM Rockland, broadcasting also on W257BI 99.3 FM Camden, and streaming on the web at WRFR.org. We're all volunteers here at WRFR, and we invite you to join us in giving voice to the life and creativity of our Rockland-Camden area. WRFR is sponsored by over 80 local businesses. Each hour, we thank 4 of these sponsors. Please note who they are and let them know you appreciate their support for your local community radio station. Thanks for listening.
Boyne McKay Food Company, located in beautiful downtown Camden, feeding the masses since 1999, serving Equal Exchange Coffee, the original fairly traded organic coffee.
Brio Promotions, advertising specialties, custom logo apparel, local screen printing and embroidery. They offer warehousing and fulfillment services for your promotional marketing needs. Located in Rockland, Maine, and on the web at briopromotions.com. That's Brio, B-R-I-O, promotions.com.
Brooks Trap Mill on Beechwood Street in Thomaston, a family-owned business supplying lobstermen with traps, ropes, buoys, paint, rain gear, and much more. 354-8763.
Cafe Miranda, lunch and supper, 7 days a week year-round. Breakfast and lunch menu Sundays from 10:30. Eat in, take out, and delivery available. Catering and bartending services too. All local foods and produce, seafood, meats, homemade pasta, vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, and kid-friendly. CafeMiranda.com, 15 Oak Street, Rockland.
And we thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more about your local radio station, give us a call at 594-0721 or log into our website at wrfr.org.
Greetings and salutations. This is the Rockland-Camden Area Community Calendar for Sunday, March 8th, brought to you by the Free Press. There's a ski-a-thon at the Camden Snow Bowl for a $20 donation to the Watershed School's financial aid program. Skiers can ski free and participate in a pledge drive that earns money for every run down the mountain. There will be soup and baked goods on deck. Romeo and Juliet is at the Strand Theater at 1 p.m. in Rockland. The Beloshi Ballet production streams live from Moscow. Tom Luther Quintet plays in Thomaston from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Highlands Cafe Coffee House. Jazz, blues, and more. There's no cover. Denny Williams performs at 2 p.m. at the Second Sunday Music Series at Harbor Square Gallery in Rockland. It's $10 at the door. And the 4th annual Chili and Chowder Cook-Off is from 2 to 5 p.m. at the Trackside Station on Union Street in Rockland. Amateurs and pros will compete. The public is invited to taste and judge the entries. It's sponsored by the Rockland Professional Firefighters Local 1584, which raises money for muscular dystrophy. It's $20 per entry. The public admission is $10 at the door. And Very Early Camden, people and events from 1622 to 1778 is at 2 p.m. at the Camden Library. Sandy Delano gives the slide talk in the Camrock Historical Society's Main Living series. And Community Sing program is from 3:30 to 4:45 at the First Congregational Church in Camden. Sings of all ages and levels are invited to, I believe that means to say singers of all ages and levels are invited to participate. This is free, but donations will help to cover the costs. And if you are curious to find out more information about these and other funky things happening right here in this funky place where we get to call home, visit wrfr.org.
Circles in the moonlight, meanest boys have been around. Show the girls a little good time, spinning tires in the soft ground. Crop circles round a campfire, we're gonna smolder a little grass. But watch out, Farmer Johnson's got salt shot to pepper you. Farmer Johnson's got a shotgun, running naked through a cornfield. Something came in the middle of the night, stole moonshine from his stick. There's burn marks in a circle, strange signs upon the ground. He thinks the aliens have touched down in our little town. We know soft ground. Crop circles round a campfire, we're gonna smolder a little grass. But watch out, crazy Johnson's got salt shot to pepper you. Johnson took his hat off, open mic at the town hall. Said we're visitors sitting among us from somewhere beyond the stars. You don't know them cause they like trouble, they drink our beer, they like fun. I even seen them with the mayor's daughter, driving around in a local boy's truck. Oh, but we don't. Crop circles in the moonlight, meanest boys have been around. Show the girls a little good time, spinning tires in the soft ground. Crop circles round a campfire, we're gonna smolder a little grass. But watch out, crazy Johnson's got salt shot to pepper you. He says they're gonna beam us up, take us in our trucks. They're gonna beam us up, experiment on us. They're gonna beam us up, take us in our trucks. They're gonna beam us up, experiment on us. Crop circles in the moonlight, meanest boys have been around. Show you girls a little good time, spinning tires in the soft ground. Crop circles round a campfire, we're gonna smolder a little grass. But watch out, crazy Johnson's got salt shot to pepper you. Yeah, girls, we're gonna beam you up, take you in our trucks. Beam you up, experiment on love. We're gonna beam you up, take you in our trucks. We're gonna beam you up, experiment on love.
Welcome. You have entered the zone of high strangeness, a place where the unbelievable is believed until proven otherwise. This is Gary Wheeler, your host, and boy, what a day it is today. I think possibly we're turning the corner, and this winter is going to yield and bring on the spring. Boy, will that be nice. Everybody's ready. I can see everybody's got a smile on their face today because you can just feel it's coming. The theme tonight was, of course, Dean Brody singing Crop Circles from his album of the same name. I think it's a pretty gutsy move for a country western to singer involving UFOs, which apparently he did have a sighting himself, but he's sticking with a country western theme, and of course there's a girl, and there's a pickup truck, and I don't think there was a dog. I think there was a mention of a shotgun or something. But it's true to the country western style, but it's a good sign that the whole idea of UFOs is entering into what has to be considered the mainstream. Okay, this afternoon, callers are welcome. I want the callers to know that when they answer the phone, they'll immediately be on air. So be aware of that. Also, I'm interested in anybody actually who wants to call and talk about the subject. Hopefully you may have had an experience yourself or know of somebody that has had an experience and can relate to it. I appreciate first names only. That way we protect the innocent or the guilty as well. So the number to call is 207-593-0013. Again, 207-593-0013. As usual, I'll give you FYI on digital cameras. They have the capability of picking up some of the spectrum, electromagnetic spectrum that we don't see with our eyes. So there's a good possibility in the ultraviolet range. You may pick up some images in the sky that you didn't see when you took the picture. So it's always worth looking a little closer to see if you might have something there that could be considered a UFO. Also, even though it's not crop circle season, because the crops had all been harvested, this website, ccdb.ws, is a marvelous site to go to look at the crop circles that have been done this year. There's been 31 this year, and hopefully this actual coming up season will have more. So in 2014, the total was 31. And, it's just worth taking a look at the site because the pictures are beautiful, and one cannot look at it without being really taken back by the perfection of the circles themselves, and no doubt the feeling inside that there is some sort of message that's being conveyed to us from certainly others than us ourselves. Okay, and to remind you, the sponsorship for the funds, for matching funds for the moving of the station over to Lincoln Street Center is still ongoing, so never feel like you can't donate some money, whatever you may have laying around there, that you could feel good about giving some to the station. We would appreciate it. And also thanks to all those people who have contributed so far, and some that will no doubt continue to contribute over time. I want to thank my sponsors, Diverse Landscapes here in Rockland, and Eric Best, who is a friend, an author, and a business consultant. Remind you, you're listening to WRFR, 93.3 FM in Rockland, 99.3 in Camden, and streaming on WRFR.org. Also, at that website, you can get podcasts of most of the shows, including this one. It'll give you a direct link to where the past shows are listed. Okay, now tonight we're going to have a little treat. We're going to have an interview that was done back not too long ago, in 2011, I believe, by a group called The Dark Journalist, and they're interviewing Linda Moulton Howe, who's an investigative reporter who's been studying and investigating the whole UFO phenomenon since back at least 35 years. She specialized in some of the most bizarre types of encounters, mainly the what they call cattle mutilations that were occurred back in the 80s and 90s and still happen today, but not with quite the same frequency. And she was the first reporter ever to discuss and verify that these mutilations actually occurred, and it was pretty evident by what you hear. Oh, I got a phone call. I'll have to cut in right now. Hello, you're on WRFR? Yeah. Oh, hi, Diana. How you doing? I don't... Okay. Diana, I don't think they're much affected by that. I think that our weather patterns don't seem to enter into the frequency with which they're seen. Partly I think the very physics that they live in is kind of an alternate physics to what we're used to. So I'm not even sure they react to anything that we would call weather. I know there's a lot of sightings that take place up in Alaska in some of the colder climates, but again, nobody's really sure why that's the case. But there doesn't seem to be any pattern as such around it that I've read about or seen. Have you had any personal experiences yourself? Well, that's good. Well, you can listen here, and you never know who might call, All right. Thank you, Diana. I appreciate the call. Yeah, bye-bye. All right, I'll go back to the what I was saying around the tape. So this tape is an interview, part of an interview. I'll play the next part next time, and I'll cut in a little while to talk a little more about what she has to say. Okay, here we go.
Hi, this is Dark Journalist. Today's show will stay in your memory for a long time. We have the legendary investigative reporter, author, and Emmy Award-winning TV producer Linda Moulton Howe joining us. Now, Linda has just released an expanded edition of her classic book, An Alien Harvest. In her groundbreaking career, she's covered the most controversial issues, from cattle mutilation to contact with extraterrestrial life, and the government cover-up of advanced UFO technology. Now, in this special extended episode, we'll trace the high points of Linda's fascinating work, but she'll also share her new research on ET resurrection technology, the influence of positive and negative alien entities, and what may be behind the DNA hybridization program that's underway right now. You don't want to miss this one. Here we go. Investigative reporter Linda Moulton Howe, ET resurrection and interdimensional war.
I'm Fife Symington. In 1997, during my second term as governor of Arizona, I saw something that defied logic and challenged my reality. I witnessed a massive delta-shaped craft that silently navigated over the Squaw Peak area in North Phoenix in the evening, and it was truly breathtaking.
We are dealing with other intelligences interacting with this planet, not just now, but long into the past. If you guys in the government and military think that you have control over the interaction of extraterrestrials from wherever they come with humans, you're kidding yourself.
You know, I've always felt that the serious journalist who was interested in exposing the UFO reality was beset by powerful forces from the outset. From government officials who don't want the truth known, to a corporate media that only shows what it's allowed to show, religious and institutional forces, and finally the off-world visitors themselves are in no great hurry to reveal their presence to an already confused world. That's why a person like Linda Moulton Howe is so valuable to our understanding of a true universal view in the 21st century. Her courage, curiosity, and professionalism have proven that she's the exception to the rule when it comes to penetrating this veil of secrecy. So let's get started. Linda, it's wonderful to have you here. Of course, your amazing reports on Coast to Coast AM radio and Dreamland are some of the most innovative, cutting-edge investigative journalism that's out there.
Thank you.
Now, we have so many good things to cover, but I wanted to start off with your early documentary film, which was a real breakthrough on the connection between cattle mutilations and the UFO reality, called A Strange Harvest. Now, this was so advanced, and I watched it again last night and was just struck by how well it holds up, even now, some years later. It's a very powerful documentary film.
Well, thank you very much. I guess by the time I did that, I had done so much documentary. See, I graduated from Stanford in '68 and made films there for 2 years.
Okay.
I was working at KNBC in daily news, generating stories. And then I was hired to do documentaries at KNBC. And then I was married then, and my husband accepted to go back to Harvard to get another degree. And there I was hired by the ABC station to do ABC's weekly medical and then science. And then the Peabody that I was the producer in I was producing science and medical programs every single week. It was a tremendous amount of work.
Oh, yeah.
Then my husband graduated, took a position with Time Inc. in their brand new, it's hard to believe now, it was brand new cable. They were just inching their way out into cable.
Right.
Got an assignment in Denver, and I was producing for the medical, it was syndication, medical syndication at WCBB in Boston. We leave, go to Denver. I had a brand new baby, but I made some phone calls to the TV stations just to see, without really much, just what might be open. And the CBS station came to, you're Linda Moulton Howe? Well, we have from a syndicator yesterday left on my desk medical programming that ABC is trying to syndicate, and your name's on this.
Unbelievable.
He said, seriously, this is how, he said, yeah, come down. I'd rather hire the producer than buy this. And that's how I was hired to be director of special projects. And so I just kept going from one bigger fire to another. And so by the time that I started trying to get to the bottom of animal mutilations at a strange harvest, I mean, I'd been producing short and long form for television from 68 to 79, that falls when I started. So I had 11 years of doing, and had won already 2 or 3 Emmys and the Peabody and all this other stuff. And that's not this kind of thing. It just
Right.
means that out of Stanford, it was a very good program, and it made us do everything. And I was the only female in a class of 27 guys.
Yeah, well, you never seem to shy away from the really big challenges. And even in your early investigative reporting, you're right there pushing the envelope. Now, A Strange Harvest, for example, the title alone, right off the bat, conjures up the most disturbing and challenging images. So I guess it's really that combination of your experience in TV production, along with this edgy, kind of controversial subject matter, that makes that such a unique piece of work.
Well, and that's why I'm thinking back at the time when I did that, I knew that I had to get on the road with only a sound man and a cameraman. That's all we had, and they had to be umbilical together. And that I had certain sheriffs, certain ranchers, a journalist. I had dots on a map. And we started in the station wagon, driving up. I think the first place we went was Wyoming, so I could talk with Leo Sprinkle, interview the rancher who had this big, huge craft come down right over and had mutilations where the craft had been.
And that's Dr. Leo Sprinkle in the movie, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he was very important in the 70s. Into the 80s, but especially Leo was in the trenches on abductions way before Bud Hopkins.
That's interesting. You know, I was surprised to see that you had an actual hypnotic regression of an abductee in A Strange Harvest. That's a very early example of someone using that method to extract memories of an alien encounter. 2, right.
One, the rancher in Bosler, and then the end, Judy Doherty, because that was the clincher.
Oh, yeah.
But what I mean is we're driving to places where I, as a producer, writer, director, editor, and reporter, all I've got is the questions. Who or what is killing and mutilating these animals, and why? That was my only grounding theme everywhere we went. So that would be the anchor in every location without any answers, and that each spot that we went to, whatever unfolded, was completely wild.
Right.
And we stayed up all night several times, and the truth was, I'd done a lot of difficult things. I had had a very intense life up to then. And then I was just like somebody pulled into sixth gear.
Uh-huh.
When I did A Strange Harvest, it literally, sleep was an irritation. And it was 9 months of never stopping. I probably have never done anything like it since. It was like you went to work and 9 months later you went home. It has that feeling. It was that intense. And nothing was nailed down. Nothing was scripted. Everything was moving from day to day on what you learned this day that would take you to the next day.
That's interesting.
And so it was as pure documentary existence as you could possibly get on a subject that the questions outweighed proof. But the physical evidence was the largest body of physical evidence of extraterrestrials interacting with this planet there could possibly be. And that when the very first sheriff that I talked to said, Linda, let me save you some time, knew my work at Channel 7, the perpetrators are creatures from outer space.
Oh.
I can still remember it felt like I had been hit by a 220 volt circuit when he said that. I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten that 99.5% of 7 billion people on this planet are not prepared for that fact.
Oh, absolutely.
And so everything that I've tried to do since, because when it was broadcast, it was like a bomb went off.
Right.
It's just like, there's no computers, there's no faxes, remember that.
Yeah.
The work we were doing, still using payphones. Payphones.
Wow.
Country roads.
Incredibly raw and low tech.
You've got your camera and your audio tape, and those guys better be preserving. This is film that has to go to a lab.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that. If it's too hot or too cold, you've destroyed all your work.
Oh, that's wild.
People have no idea.
I can't even imagine. But this is investigative filmmaking on the edge, right? It's very exciting, but it's also volatile and dangerous in a sense. Now, I know, for example, that this put you on the radar for some of these covert intelligence agencies. You know, as soon as this came out, boom, you're dealing with all this surveillance and scrutiny. And that's pretty much when that started. So for better or for worse, you got their attention.
Yeah, I was marked. And it explained why, starting in fall of 79, when I made a call to the Central Intelligence Agency, that's how dumb and innocent I was.
Oh.
I called them because somebody that I had interviewed, a sheriff, I believe, said that he knew that the CIA was involved. And it's really a comment. I was born and raised in a period of time where to be an American in the United States was to assume without question that you really were allowed to do anything within the legal limits of laws, but no subject was off limits. That when we traveled to another country, I think it's fair to say, it's not a fair perspective, but I think it's fair to say, Americans did think that they were superior to everybody else on the planet because we were born of by and for the people.
Yes.
And that today these words seem childish.
Well, that is fascinating, the degree to which the perception has changed. And I think we can all agree that there's an agenda that's moving forward there. But there is something in your research and reporting, and I think I can trace it from A Strange Harvest. There's some quality there that I think goes beyond journalistic curiosity. And it has led you on this astonishing journey into these deep mysteries. So I guess my question is, why cattle mutilations? How did that become the subject that drew you in and led you to these other worlds?
I guess I want to find out what it is, and I'd like to see it stopped.
I see.
The bloodless, senseless, weird death of these animals. I suppose that's where I started. Why is this happening? Who is doing it? And how can it be stopped? And here we are in February of 2015, 35 and counting years later, in the miles that I have walked.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's that same energy and same motivation that we had that's part of who I am, that wanted to cut through, again, government bullying, whether it's CIA, NSA bullying, or state patrol people with guns.
Right.
It's bullying. And that the entire character and nature of the United States of America is hanging in a delicate balance right now as we speak.
Well, I know that you're very concerned about the changes in tone and policy in the American government over the last decade or so. And I can see that this keeps popping up in your reporting, even when that's not what the report is about. So I'm perceiving that this is a key consideration for you now.
Well, it's where we started. If this is a country that still has a constitution, a Bill of Rights, a Declaration of Independence, and nobody that I know has been able to demonstrate that that was changed, and we're sitting at 250, 60 years in as a country. And if a coup d'etat did occur with the assassination of John F. Kennedy because he wanted to open up the extraterrestrial truth,
right,
which is Jim Mars and I and others have been exposed to as being the real reason he was assassinated.
Well, it makes you wonder.
Then, what country have we been living in since 1963? How much sham and camouflage by forces that don't want to be identified are in control from the NSA, CIA, DIA, and all the alphabet soup, that there is a heavy-handed control on what the public and the media are allowed to receive, and that which is not politically acceptable to the power group is criticized, made fun of, characterized in the UFO area as swamp gas and weather balloons, when they know that it's not, because they are out actively trying to get this stuff and actively back engineer it. And there are too many people who have served in firsthand capacities that have testified to this, to several of us firsthand before they died, with nothing to gain.
That's true.
Now, I've been a TV producer, writer, director, editor, and a journalist in lots of media. And in today, Earth Files is sort of my crossroads to deal with lots of different subjects, science, environment, and real X-Files.
And earthfiles.com is just an amazing site. It's so informative, and it's really fantastic.
I'll cut in here just for a second to remind you that you're listening to High Strangeness, and this is Gary Wheeler, and you're listening to WRFR, 93.3 FM in Rockland, and 99.3 in Camden. Also streaming on the website, wrfr.org. Just cutting in at that moment, they were speaking of Linda's website called earthfiles.com. Well worth going to. It lists all her books and ways in which you can buy them there, or also her documentary films. All right, I'm going to quickly go back because we don't want to run out of time.
Thank you very much. But it all comes back. I guess I don't want to know that I'm living a phony, false, concocted democracy.
Yeah.
But right now in 2015, I think that's what we have. And right now going forward, and at the root of all of this, I think, is the whole issue that Truman and Eisenhower and Churchill knew in World War II that those silver things, whether they were disc-shaped or spheres or lights, that could do this. Literally, here'd be an RAF flyer, and these things would do this around the plane. And pilots would report back, we've got documents. And they knew. Anybody with adult intelligence knew this was defying the physics of the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
And these were very bright men. And I think very patriotic men to their two countries. And that the truth, if the truth were known in the hearts and the souls of those men, they would really feel that it was their super patriotic duty to lie in order to keep a peaceful public in the throes of World War II. Because they knew that was going on during the war.
Yeah.
And the documents reflect that. So, if it is true, what's in some of the documents released by the Ministry of Defense 5 years ago, at least one security guard heard Churchill and Eisenhower talking about the UFOs and how a lid had to be put on the subject for 2 generations. This is Churchill to Eisenhower. And a generation by a political science book in college would be defined as 25 years.
Okay, so 50 years.
50 years. And what's 50 plus, let's say that the year that this occurred was 44. Let's say it's a year before the war ended.
Okay, yeah.
So somewhere around 93 to 94, those 50 years would have come to an end. And what is so interesting is that that is a period of time when I remember myself and others feeling like it's going to crack. The signs are moving. They're going to tell the truth.
Uh-huh.
And 93 came and 94 came. There's a lot happening. I could tell you a lot of things that were happening, but no big public statement. And in 1997, March 13th, over Phoenix came a whole wave of things starting at about 7 o'clock in the evening. That was the 2-mile long triangle. And a bunch of people saw it in that half hour from about 7 to 7:30, 7:40.
This is the Phoenix Lights case.
Yeah, but it was a whole series of things. And the most important, I think, was the big triangle.
Yes, okay.
There is no such thing as putting anything 2 miles long up in the air, completely silent, and have it move. It's not human.
Absolutely.
Possible.
Well, the Phoenix Lights was an amazing event because, at least at the beginning, the press actually covered it, which was shocking in itself.
Well, they had to because many people who were videotaping, calling up the TV stations. And if you were in Phoenix at that time for those 2 or 3 hours, you could walk outside and you'd see something in the sky, which a lot of people did.
Right, no question.
It is amazing that after that night and all of that publicity, all of the doors that felt like that they had started to open in the early 90s just went, everything shut down.
That is so strange.
And one source who I would never, I don't think he would have the ability to prove, and I certainly don't have the ability to prove. But one source got in touch with me a day or two after March 13th, 1997 in New Jersey, who was under contract for the Department of Defense to make boutique computers. And then it was that, say, DOD had X challenge, this company could make something just for that challenge. That's why they called them boutique computers.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he said, I want you to know that I got a call about what was happening in Phoenix. And he said, simultaneously that night, one of our critical DOD satellites was fried by an unknown.
Wow, by an unknown.
And you're not going to see that in the headlines of the New York Times.
No. As a matter of fact, the military response on this was ludicrous. First, they said it wasn't happening. And then they said, oh, yes, it's just some flares. Move along. But of course, it was there, hovering over the city. And even the governor later came out and said, yes, I saw it also. And then it looked otherworldly. So in a sense, the Phoenix Lights is probably one of the most relevant UFO cases now, because it happened somewhat recently, and there were so many witnesses. Actually, an entire major city in America was looking at this mystery.
There were waves of things happening. And I was on the air with Art Bell. It was either that night or the night after.
Right.
With the family, 5 people who saw the 2 Mile Triangle, and then the real estate people, they saw it. And it became very clear early on, if you were talking with witnesses who were there, that starting around 7 o'clock on the Phoenix clock and coming around to about 7:30, 7:40, is this huge triangle. Silent, low. The family, they could see line grooves in geometric patterns on the base of this thing. Then, starting in this next wave from about 7:40 going to 8:30, 9 o'clock, those were the bows of lights over Phoenix, the ones that made television. Then, somewhere between 9:30 to 10:30, a truck driver coming into Phoenix, not knowing anything about what's going on, sees 2 pumpkin orange globes over what would be Luke Air Force Base. And they are so big, and they are so bright, and so astonishing that he gets on his truck radio trying to get a hold of somebody. What is this over the Air Force Base? And while he's in his truck trying to radio people, these big orange things go. In other words, that's what he used on the phone with me. He said they just, like one of those pop out.
Yeah. That's fast.
Who's in something that can be in a stationary position and then literally almost disappear going up so fast, right? So there were at least these 3 phases, and it went on then for at least 3 hours or so. And the only part that penetrated through the media to the public were the arcs of lights.
Yes.
The others, a lot of us were trying to report, but it shows that almost minds, and maybe Churchill and Eisenhower were right, that there's been such strong government denial that the vast majority of people are willing to just accept, well, there's nothing to it. The video was vivid. So the video of the arc of lights and them going on and off was something that they could see very clearly. No one had good video of the 2 mile long triangle. And how many people do you know right now that if you said, I was on a hill and a thing that was shaped like a triangle and it didn't make any sound came right over me, and I timed it, and it had to be 2 miles long. How many people would believe it?
Well, in everyday life, the sad truth is probably very few.
Then the government says,
Oh boy.
we're home free again because we are dealing with other intelligences interacting with this planet, not just now, but long into the past, with agendas that are probably incomprehensible. And that the super patriotic position is you keep everybody dumb and blind and happy. We adults will take what we can get from extraterrestrial technology, and we will make it into semiconductors and laser technology, and we will make all this money, and we will have all of this domination in technology. And eventually, in a century or 2 or 3 or 5, it won't matter, because then we'll all be gone. It will be a history no one knew, and everybody will just be in the future where extraterrestrials of all kinds, and we'll be moving among the stars, and we will be moving among the stars and the technology that we back engineered from what we lied to everybody about. And that is essentially the essence of what I understand is going on. But
there is a danger to it.
Absolutely. When you lie, when governments lie, when leaders lie, when an entire world is based on lies, I just think we're in a universe where eventually there is some sort of karmic due. And that if I hadn't been raised the way I was as an American, and I mean that with the deepest respect.
Yes.
The last thing I ever would have thought as a child is that the police, the military, and the president would be lying about most everything to protect something so fundamental as we're not alone in the universe. And that all kinds of intelligences have been coming and going and terraforming and building and would explain so many of the mysteries of the Sphinx and the pyramids and Stonehenge and on and on. I'm excited by wanting to know what the real truth is. I'm excited, not afraid, of having every single thing that we've ever been taught about our history turned upside down if we could be told the truth, and that it would include what is the truth about the evolution of primates into Homo sapiens sapiens.
Uh-huh.
And it's not what we've been taught.
So the ET question is really the ultimate untouchable.
Well, the governments have wanted it to be that way since World War II, and they've been very effective. Remember, counterintelligence in World War II, England and the United States, Australia and Canada, those main allies, those were some of the brightest minds there were. You have to be extremely bright. You have to be able to accommodate all kinds of contradictions. Really good in counterintelligence.
Yeah.
But what is counterintelligence's goal? During the war, it was to camouflage, to completely throw the Nazis into confusion about what was being done. Confusion is the ally of counterintelligence. Those same people that got us through World War II, and God bless them, are exactly the same people that go into the Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy administrations with one huge responsibility to keep the public and the media at an arm's length distance for the foreseeable future from a truth that our governments were dealing with, that extraterrestrial biological entities were interacting with the planet then. They knew they had in the past and would be in the future. And we are now in the 21st century, and nothing has changed about the reality. But the government's policy of denial has been one of the firm nails in the United States, I would say, from what we were born to be, was a nation that would evolve on principle, with morality, of, by, and for people, in which the government would serve. Seems so quaint to say that now. The government would serve the people.
Right.
And you and I and every listener knows the United States Americans, the British, English, the Australians, even the Canadians. The tax dollars serve the government.
Yeah.
It's been turned upside down. But nobody in government ever wants to acknowledge the Constitution was shredded without any war and no formal act. The people are serving the government. That's the truth.
Right, and that seems to be the prevailing trend. So it's important to look at how the government cover-up of the ET presence fits with this emerging landscape.
I think that at the heart of the entire extraterrestrial question, and remember, I started in something that's very difficult and repulsive, animal mutilations.
Right, that's such a challenging place to start from, I would imagine.
And having no idea exactly where I was going to end up.
Did it ever cross your mind that it was just too much to get involved in?
If they had been horrific, if there had been lots of blood, probably, I'm going to say something that is only speculative about myself and back 35 years ago, but probably the idea that it was satanic cults mucking around with something horrific, I would never have touched it.
Yeah.
It was being with a deputy and a sheriff going to the first mutilation with the crew. And the deputies say, take a look at this. And there on the ground is a black and white steer. It is sheen perfect, meaning every hair, it's just perfect, lying on its right side. And there was a circle of hide that was removed from the eye. If you took a compass in 6th grade and you made yourself a circle and you were able to lift that hide out, it was that perfect.
Wow.
The eyeball is gone, the eyelids are gone, everything is gone. You're looking at bone inside of the most perfect circle. There's not one ragged edge. And the deputies are showing us, and we're filming this, that the tongue is gone, the right jaw flesh is gone. Where the penis and the testicles have been, there was a perfect oval. And there was not a jagged edge, and the skin underneath. I knew what lumen tissue was over muscle. That's that thin, tissuey white stuff that's called lumen.
Uh-huh.
It's there. That means that something had the ability to take the hide with the organ out and not even penetrate the thin white tissue with the muscle below.
Oh, that's amazing. Even the most advanced laser surgery couldn't do that.
Well, and then you get the problem, as I learned later, lasers. We're on a planet that is a carbon-based life form. And you take any laser in any surgery to a horse, to a cow, to a cat, to a human, it doesn't matter. And then you take the tissue that has been cut with a laser and you put it under a microscope. You're going to see what look like little black pepper grains all over it, because this is a fact of biology. You can't apply laser heat to carbon-based tissue without generating carbon that can be seen under a microscope. And I think I personally went out to maybe 30 different animals, gathered up tissue in formalin, get it FedEx back to Dr. John Altschuler in Denver, the pathologist, hematologist. And one day he called me up and he said, I'm really puzzled about something. I would really like you to come to the lab. And he had this beautiful lab. And he had a stereoscope where one person could sit here and one person could sit here so they could compare notes on the same tissue or different tissue. So he said, look here on the right, and then look on the left and tell me, what do you see that's different? And he had not front loaded this. He hadn't said where any of it. He just said, what's the difference? What do you see? And I said, well, the one on the right looks like it has pepper on it, and I don't see it on the left. And he said, that's exactly right. He said, this is tissue that you collected at X site, and this is where I'm looking at the tissue from the cow on the right that has the black. And he said, here in the left, these are photomicrographs or microscope images that I have gotten from, I think it was a gynecologist. And remember, laser surgery, that wasn't even done in 70s and barely in 80s, right?
Sure.
But by the time like around 89, 88, 87, somewhere in there, gynecologists were using lasers in gynecology surgery. And that's how he had gotten these slides from a gynecologist so that he could compare. The idea is that organic tissue is organic tissue. And a cow and a human are only 4% different in the chromosomal DNA sequence anyway.
All right.
And he looked at me, I'll never forget, he said, Linda, I do not know what this cutting instrument is, because whatever is taking this tissue in these animals, it isn't leaving carbon residue. Later on, I talked with a guy, 5 years ago, who said for the very first time, this is 2015 now, so this would have been around 2010, somebody contacted me, would not go on the record, not even now on this, want you to know we are using acoustical scalpels in the Air Force on X, Y, and Z, and they think this is the answer to your question. We are not producing carbon residue with the acoustical scalpel.
Well, there's the advanced technology.
Yeah, but this is...
But 30 years later.
Exactly.
Right. So this is potentially the alien technology they got their hands on, reverse engineered it, and now they know how to use it.
Well, my point was, it's extraterrestrials have been doing the animal mutilations.
Yeah.
That's what law enforcement.
All right, I'm going to cut in there now because we're getting close to the end of the show. I'll play with the remaining part of this particular tape next week, as well as the rest of the whole interview with Linda Howe. I hope you found this interesting. I think it's fascinating. And she's got tremendous credibility within the UFO community for her work. And she's very respected. And so if you get a chance, go to her website at earthlinks.com. And I think you'll enjoy what she has to say. Okay, again, hopefully it's going to be spring-like all next week. And it'll be a beautiful day next Sunday when I come back. And as always, embrace the mystery, and in particular, embrace the mystery that is you. Until next time.
Hello, this is Tisha Huffnagel. This is